Hello, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden. Welcome to Shifting Perspectives. My brain is focusing right in on how to shift perspectives. This has been bothering me like I can't get off of this kick. Examination is at the heart of every single victory that I had. Every single win revolved around my ability to examine the situation properly, which allowed me to then make a proper assessment, which allowed me to problem solve. And it all starts with the ability to examine. There is the corporeal concept of examination, which the medical doctor has the advantage of. Oh, well, we just use this here body, dissect it. Not a problem. We've been doing that for centuries, millennia. Science has allowed us to open the world of quantum research with the telescope, the scientific telescope, the Hubble telescope. It changes the game. We can now examine. We can drop the rover onto Mars, and we can now examine Mars up close and personal. But no one is teaching us how to examine the self. And an examination is the core of all of this. So I sat back and I did this whole assessment of how am I doing it? I remember the very first time I shifted. It was when I switched alters. I was being beaten by my brother. I was Joanna. And in the middle of the beating, I switched and I became Colin. And Colin came in like, what the fuck is going on? And there was suddenly no pain because she hadn't been beaten. Joanna was the one who got beaten. You want to talk about the mind. He had just pounded my head into the wall 8 times, bouncing my head back and forth like a punching bag between the wall and his fist. And then I fell to the ground and he just kept wailing on me and kicking me. And suddenly it was gone. There was no pain because Colin wasn't the one who got hit. And she just went, there's no pain. And she could see the big picture. She had memories of Joanna in first person being hit. And she was looking from third person point of view, first person, her own ability to see what was going on, first person. And she was looking at Joanna's third person point of view while also seeing Joanna's first person point of view inside her head at the same time. Welcome to being a multiple. That is exactly what multiple personality is like. I wasn't aware of it. I had first person point of view and third person point of view inside my head at all times. I had Berrigan's point of view, Colin's imaginations, and then I had Joanna's. So one of us was always in first person point of view while the others were looking at it third person point of view. And I could look at them third person point of view while they looked at me first person point of view. So shifting from first to third, I have a first and a third person point of view inside of my head for every situation. When I integrated, the memories merged. So now I have access to all the memories at the same time always. And I have memories of me out of body experience looking down at me, and I have memories of me first person point of view inside the situation because I had alters looking at me through all these different perspectives. So I didn't know how I did it. And then I did it again. I had a near-death experience and I had an out-of-body experience. And I stood over my body having a conversation with one of my persons. He was not an alter. I have no idea what he was. He was not an alter, but I have no idea what he was. And I sat there talking to him, looking down at the situation, looking at me, and then switching back and then being in the mind, first person point of view with the new omniscient point of view. And then it happened again when I was in 2000, right after 9/11, in 2001, when I could shift and see everyone's perspective from a different platform, and we could all shift, and I could see what you see over in your Rorschach print, and I could see what I was seeing in mine. This is what I call the Rorschach print perspective. This was the beginning of my theory. And that's really what I do, is I shift perspectives. I do it consciously. Everyone prior to me, I don't think they knew what they were doing. I don't think they had the theory. And that's what I'm doing, is I'm breaking down the theory, because when I break down the theory of how to do it, I can just hand it over to you and say, here you go, this is how you do it. I do it when I write lists, when I examine the overview, when I look at the pros and cons, when I evaluate all the events, and I'm trying to figure out, we are addicted to the first person point of view because many of us are terrified of what we will find if we shift over to the third person point of view. And once you shift over to the third person point of view, you're going to have to make changes. So a lot of people are addicted to the first person point of view, because once you see what you see, you can't go back. I had a shift this morning, where I suddenly saw first person point of view. I've been living in first person point of view in my relationship for a while, and suddenly it shifted into third, and I could finally see the big picture. I could finally see where I was trapped, and I could suddenly see the situation, and I went, oh. And suddenly the thing that was very difficult to do is now very, very easy, which is I cut out all of these toxic people who I don't even like. I never did. And it's a very, very, wow, that's easy. Like, wow, it's really fucking easy now, because I can see it and go, oh, well, there's the problem. I'll just cut those people out. And in cutting those people out, I'm looking now at my partner going, did they contaminate him? Or did he contaminate them? Now, he did not contaminate them, because common denominator. But I think that he contributed, and they pulled him in, and now he's stuck. And then when I came along, I got pulled into it, and I got stuck. And that's just it. That's exactly it. Is you've got this codependent one and one, and then they pull in more people, and then they pull in more people, and they pull in more people. And now there's literally like 1,000 people. This was one of the communities we're in, 1,000 people of parasitic codependents, all living in a cesspool of addictive codependency. And it really felt like a cult. I'm going to call it like it is. It felt like a cult. It was the priority of friend. In fact, if you didn't go to something, they would reprimand you. Holy fucking shit. If you didn't go to something, they would make you feel bad. They'd be like, friends, well, for friends, why didn't you do this? You needed to do this. You should have done this. You should have come. So there's this sudden parasitic, oh, well, you have to go. And then if somebody tells you no, they start begging and pleading. Oh, well, you should come. It'll be fun. You should come. You should, and you're pressured into going. I'm beginning to see it now. And it was so toxic. And it felt so disgusting and horrible that I literally had to be on alcohol and marijuana the entire time to cope. And it's the only time in my life that I was ever really on drugs. Really. Ever. Was these last 2.5 years. And as I got away from it, my alcohol use went right away. My marijuana use went like way low. I did some experiments with psychedelics on purpose for my work. But then after I got my research done for my psychedelic research, I was like, okay, well, we're done with that. And now I'm looking at the marijuana, and I gave that up about a month ago. I've just been like, yeah, I'm not. And now I'm sober, and I'm going, Holy fucking shit. So it's this, but what really stands out more than anything now is the feelings. Every one of those persons felt the exact same way. It is as if every identity was the same single identity being passed around to everybody and shared. They were a hive. Every one of them. Every one of them felt the exact same. I went to one of their houses about 2 months ago. I was picking something up. And when I was there, I kept feeling my partner. And I'm like, why does this feel like my partner? He's not even here. It's not his house. It's not even the same neighborhood. Why does everything in this household feel like my partner? And it bothered me. It stayed with me. Like, I kept thinking about that. And every time I imagined my partner, I would see these people in him, around him. And I could not separate the energies. This is codependency. Literally, it was like they had one identity that they just shared and passed around among all of them. And then I came into the mix and they were like, oh my God. It's because I wasn't part of it. I couldn't be part of it. And I remember this one particular party, it was when it was at its worst. I would have severe shaking and energy, and then I would get there and I would get so drunk and high to try and cope. And then I would just break down and fall apart, and then I had to go home. It was one of the last times I went because, on the way home, I'm like, I can't go. I cannot go. And I could not understand why. Addiction to me feels like slavery. So it was triggering my slavery response, completely triggering my slavery response. And it's why I went through all the shit I went through and I never had any addiction or substances, is because I valued my freedom more than the escape. I absolutely valued my freedom more than the escape. And the thing is, I found the escape through the abstract world, but that didn't enslave me. Oh my God, that freed me. That freed me. I was free in the abstract world. I'm still free in the abstract world. So now I'm sitting here on the outside looking at the situation going, I think my partner is phasing out of it. He's healing. He's going through his own healing journey. And he's made some comments that tell me that he's definitely healing from it. And it tells me that he's withdrawing. And I know what an addiction person, a person who suffers with addiction, I know exactly what they need. The reason why a person is addicted is because they have beliefs. They believe X. And they constantly look for evidence to support the belief of X, to reinforce X. And then they go through the cycle and it reaffirms, yep, I was right. X is the belief. And they go through it again. So it's like they accumulate proof of concept that their belief is correct. And they hate themselves and they can't cope or manage anxiety. So they just cycle back through, and then it comes back around like a roller coaster and they go, yep, I was right. And then when the loved one comes along, the loved one almost always becomes the enabler for the addiction, always. In fact, if you don't, they have no use for you, so they throw you away because you won't enable them anymore. So it's either enable them or they have nothing to do with you. But if they love you, they'll keep you. And this is where my partner and I differed from the regular couple, is I wouldn't enable him. He would no longer enable me, but we both kept each other anyway. And I was like, why? It's been bugging me for years. Why? And it's the intuition, because it's legit. And we watched everything around the two of us, everything that held us together, go away. So there is now officially, and I do mean there is no reason why the two of us should ever be together. There's like nothing there, but we still are. And it's like, why? And I finally got to a point where I said, I can't be around those people. I can't. And I've been bothered about it since. And today I finally found a way to step outside of the situation and examine it from the outside. And I went, how the fuck did I do that? This is the first time I not only did it consciously, but now I'm going, break it down. What did I do to examine the evidence? I wrote a list. I wrote a list of all the events. I looked at the big picture. I wrote a timeline. You know, I did this with my history too. I wrote a timeline of history. Every time I did anything with history, I wrote the timeline out. I wrote the timeline of the Roman Empire. I wrote the timeline of the Christian Empire. And then I compared. And I looked for two things. I looked for commonalities, common denominators, and I looked for anomalies. Yeah, that's right. I'm doing this. And the common denominators told me what was truth, and the anomalies told me what was unique. And then I asked the questions, why was it unique? And that is pattern recognition. So step one would be zoom out and overview. Step two would be inventory. Step three would be compare. Step four is identify what's common and different. Step five is summarize based off of theme. And that's when I realized there is a codependent addiction to the friendship circle from him, which explains why I could feel his friends in every one of them. Why every time I imagined him, I saw him and his friends like this, and I couldn't merge, I couldn't separate their identities, their energies. Every time I imagined him, I plugged in his friends with him. It was that deeply symbiotic, parasitic. And now I can look ahead to a future and say, okay, if we remove addiction A, how would that alter the future? And I'm literally trying to imagine him without this addiction. And when you do this with your own life, and I did this with Broken, I wrote the timeline. That was the book. The whole book was the timeline. I zoomed out and I did an overview. I did an inventory on all the events. I compared. And then at the very end, I identified and I summarized. I gave a whole speech at the very end of the book. And then I did in conclusion, I need help. And I've always done this. I did this when I ended my relationship with my first husband. Well, he was already gone. But I did it when I escaped my second owner. This is exactly the process I used when I escaped my second owner. And when I stepped into the overview, I became the authority. Stepping into the overview is stepping into the authority. And then it's using logic to assess and to weigh in and inventory and to evaluate. These are things we are not taught. And I'm going, how would you even teach them? And I know imagination is the very key thing, because imagination is the skill I use to imagine a future possibility where addiction A is removed from him. Who would I be without my mental illness? Overview, zoom out, inventory, compare, assess, locate the mark of Bly, and separate it from the identity. And that's it right there, is you want to separate. You have an identity, you have your mark of Bly, and you have your fear system. And those are three completely different things. And the mark of Bly and the fear system are very closely linked. But the identity is like a ball of sun. And one of the hardest things that I evaluate on a regular basis, one of the hardest things that I am confronted with over and over again is it love? Or is it codependency? Those are like, that's like the biggest thing that really hits me hard every time I look at it. Hold on a minute. So, yeah, it's very much, is it love or is it codependency? And there's also this massive aversion. So there's trauma aversion. I'm going to call it the trauma aversion. So the trauma aversion is the dump him, just dump him. Well, that's trauma aversion. And then the codependency is I need him. There's the codependency. And I'm sitting here going, I think love is integrated. Pretty sure love is integrated. And I get a lot of trauma aversion advice. And there's no one I can call up with this advice, because it's like, you need omniscience for this. And trying to figure out, when you're doing this mental cleanse, it's really doing this mental cleanse. It really comes down to, okay, who are you cutting out of your life and who are you keeping? This is really it. This is the big fucking question. How do you know when you should cut somebody out? And the first question I ask is, do they have value? Do you love them? Is it fear-based? And this is where over and over again, it's like, I am a firm believer that love is to value without profit or gain. To value without profit or gain. And if you are getting something from this person, that isn't love, that is negotiation, that is there's a reason why you are negotiating. There should not be a trade, exchange, or negotiation in love. It's a celebration. And then there's the question of, are they going to change? Well, everyone does change. Yeah, everyone does change. There's a growth. And this is where, when it comes to addictions, people are like, dump them. And this is not for the faint of heart. This is not for the faint of heart. You have to make sure that you really ironclad your own mental health. So that's the first thing, is you have got to ironclad your own mental health. Second, this is endurance. And then there's people who are like, it's equivalent to, my husband was diagnosed with lifelong cancer. Do I dump him or do I stick by him? How is this any different? And the people who go dump him, they usually have trauma addiction, and they do not have the fortitude or the mental health to take care of it themselves. And then there's, which is what we're doing, you put it down, you walk away, but we're right here. So it's like, you do that over there, I'm going to do this over here, and we're going to do it side by side. And it's very difficult. I feel like it's a giant chessboard. And the thing is, with the cycle, there is one massive cycle. The reason why somebody has an addiction problem is because of conditional belonging. Conditional belonging. And it's when conditional belonging reaffirms their lack of value. I'm valueless, therefore no one stays. I'm valueless, therefore no one stays. I have to have value for someone to stay. I don't have value, therefore no one stays. So my approach to addiction is going, they need support. They need unconditional love. And their fear system is going to prove themselves right for self-preservation. So then their fear systems turn on the loved ones and go, get away. You're going to leave me like everyone else does. It's unconditional belonging. You can have whatever mental illness you have. I'm not going to go anywhere. And this is where they become highly abusive toward their caregiver, their loved one, because they really truly believe that they're going to leave and they need to be proven right. So it's this horrible cycle. And when you stop enabling them, that's when they get the most aggressive. Because, oh, well, if we don't have a valuable working relationship here, then I'm nothing to you. And then when you stay by them, it proves them wrong. And it confuses them, so they push further. So yeah, right now I am deep. I've been deep into examining the addiction cycle and the cure to addiction for a long time. Like, it's been 2 years where I have done nothing but just focus on addiction and breaking the cycle. And everyone is like, dump him. Well, that's what everyone else does, and it doesn't cure it. They got to hit rock bottom. Okay, no, they don't. Because rock bottom is when you kill yourself. And look at the statistics. That's bullshit. No, it's not. So these are answers that we have not gotten right, which is why it's a problem. And then it comes to the question of, well, is it causing me harm? No, I'm mentally ironclad. I'm good. I'm mentally solid. Where I'm struggling is I've got this riddle in my head and I can't solve the riddle. I'm trying to solve for X. And I'm been searching for the logic of it over and over again. And my problem is I keep running into this bias, this societal bias. And honestly, the societal bias is the biggest problem. Every time I hit the societal bias, that's when things alter. That's when things fall apart, is this societal bias. And I'm going, okay, what the fuck? So yeah, I've got this problem and I'm still just trying to weed it out. So I'm looking at examination, and I was able to pull out and do the omniscient point of view today and see this from a bigger point of view and go, okay, I can understand that. There's A, B, C. I got that in place now. That makes sense. And now I understand the addiction that I'm dealing with on a whole. So now I know, okay, I'm not going to have any participation at all with those people. Like, they're cut out completely. They're too toxic for me. Done. You don't heal the way I have healed and then expose yourself to the toxic. So I'm good with that. I'm like, all right. So now I have a solid law in place. And literally, it's everyone who gave me those horrific toxic feelings is gone. So I feel great about that. I really feel good about that decision. And I can't do it for him. That's the point. That is exactly the point. Is the cycle he's caught in is the enabling cycle. So I can't enable. So I'm all the way over here now doing X, cutting out all those people. And it's if you want to come back into my life, they can't come with you because that's the addiction. That's the problem. Friends are not the problem. Those people are. I'm feeling better about it. And since I made that distinction, my relationship with friends, it's been less than 4 hours. And I'm noticing that I'm more comfortable using the word friends now. It was almost instantaneous where I'm going, wow, I can now use the word friends. Because before, when I used the word friends, I would associate it with those toxic, codependent addicts. And now I'm looking at it going, wow, that was really a strong association. So I'm now over here going, okay, my ethics, and this is the priority, is my mental health. My mental health is the very first priority. You know, and he used to have that priority too. And that's the other thing that I saw decline in him. This is making so much more sense. Like I can see the whole cycle. I can see the big picture. I'm like, oh, that explains that element. That's over there and that's falling into place. And this is what happens when you have two mirrors who are starting to repeat each other. This is why self-evaluation, self-examination is so vital. You require the second person point of view, the third person point of view. You have to look at every situation from all facets to know what it is you are dealing with. And yeah, over and over again, that comes down to the zoom out and overview, the inventory, the compare, identify common differences, theme summarize, and in conclusion. Yeah. Oh, here's the other. Identify truths. Oh, that's a big part of it. Ooh, that one's going to hurt a lot of people. Identify truths. So identifying truths is how did it, well, this is the formula for this. This is what I call the teacher's formula. So identifying truths goes like this. How does it make you feel? How does it make you behave? There's one other thing. Oh, yeah. And is it ethical? How does it make you feel? Is it ethical? And so it's you compare your feelings, your ethics, and your behavior. That's it. Are you altering your behavior? Do you feel good ethically? Does it feel right? We're not even looking at the joy. We're just looking at, does it feel good? Does it feel right? Are you altering your behavior? Are they altering their behavior? Yes, they were. Now, taking feelings, behavior, and ethics based off of your behavior, your feelings, and your ethics, what would you name them? What name would you give them? Based off of the feelings that I had from those people? Based off of the behavior? Codependent addictions. They were literally codependent addicts. They were a nest of codependent addicts. There you go. They were a nest of codependent addicts. Now I can see the situation. Now I have their name. Codependent addicts. A nest of them. But they had called each other friend. And I'm like, yeah, no. The last party I went to, the last one, like I will not be going back. Two of them, I had watched significant decline. They were both so drunk. I could see the alcohol in her eyes glazed over, and I went, wow. And she had a narcissistic, stage 3 narcissistic, severe level 8 hoarding as well. And she was a hoarder / narcissist, horribly toxic. And the two of them had paired up as well. And then there was another person. The whole thing was just a nest of codependent addicts. But when you are stuck in first person point of view, you are not going to see it. You have to step out of it to be able to pull this off. And you require the examination to do this so you can diagnose it. And that's what it is it is the art of diagnosing your own situation. And in order to do that, you need to zoom out. You need to do an overview. You need to do an inventory. You need to look at the situation from all angles, at least 4 angles. Look at the situation from his point of view, from your point of view, from the overall outsider's point of view, and then from the big picture. Now, how does it feel? What is your behavior? Are you changing your behavior? So now the next part that I'm looking at is, and then I'm looking at even the bigger picture, is where I came from prior to him, from that situation over to this one. And I'm going, wow. Do I sink the ship? And then that's it right there. Do I sink the ship? That's the question, is, do I even try and recover from this thing? And I'm just looking at it going, I don't know if I should sink the ship or not. I really don't know. I feel like that's throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Do you save the bathwater or not? Or do you save the baby or not? So and that's the question, is, do I burn the ship? Yeah. So it's a big, yeah, there's a lot to evaluate. So this is something I'm going to be really delving into in the stepping stones. I'm going to be breaking down literally reverse engineering examination, because to reverse engineer the art of examination is to have all of this at your fingertips. And it is a vital part of problem solving. It is problem solving. I wish I had a term for this. This is where it's all of the things. And I'm like, if you integrate all of these tools, you have this study. And it's problem solving, but it's like strategic problem solving. It's literally the study of perspective problem solving. It's I can't even begin to explain what it is. And it's literally, when you take an IQ test, this is what they test you on, is how well you can pull this off. So I'm looking at it going, okay, what would this study be? Now, philosophy, that's all they do. This is what they do, but they do it on a grand scale. And it is philosophy, but the name has been so run through the mud that there's now an incorrect association with philosophy. So to use the word is to evoke the wrong comprehension. Well, let's look at the feeling it gives me. It gives me a feeling of omniscient, multifaceted evaluation. A multifaceted evaluation process with which to problem solve. Multifaceted evaluation solution process, like it's a solution process, a process of solution. I almost want to say it's like a logician's solution, the logician solution. And it's just this whole thing. This is what I used to cure my mental illness. All of them. this process over and over again. I broke my Stockholm syndrome with this. I escaped my second owner with this process. The Rorschach print, or the Rorschach print perspective, my work around that completely is the foundation for this. Every time I stepped outside of my shitty existence and stepped into a different change, this process takes place. And this process, now that I've broken it down into the components of, components, you got to break it down to components. And it's literally weighing in. It's good God, it's the science of, I don't know what this is. And because there's 5 major points here, I'm going, what is this? Like shifting perspectives, but it's like the science of shifting perspectives. It's more than that. It does not begin to explain what this is. So this is what I'm trying to figure out at the moment. And I'm using my own life experience for research. I've been doing this. Like I use me as I am guinea pig number 1. So I evaluate my situation, and then I go in and I theoretically break it down with the steps, the process, the mindset, the stages. And that's when the common denominators always match up. And then I take the common denominators and I compare it to everybody else, and everybody else goes, yeah, those are the common denominators. And I'm like, all right, and it's 100% accuracy. Every time I find a common denominator, it comes back 100% accuracy. So it was something I said to my psychology friend yesterday or the day before. We really need to get away from this concept of everyone heals differently. No, you don't. No, we do not. Everyone heals the exact same way. There are 12 stages of healing. 12. Everyone heals the same way. You might be on stage 1. You might be on stage 5. You might be on stage 7. So there are 12 stages, and everybody in the in the first person point of view, in their little perspective is going, oh, we all heal differently. No, you don't. You're just at different stages. And if you had the omniscient point of view, you could see this. But everyone's following the exact same 12 stages. And if you're stuck at second perspective, your healing's going to look like this. But if you're stuck at the 5th perspective, your healing's going to look like this. But guess what? You're going to have to go through stages 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then you'll look like this. So there are 12 categories, 12 stages of healing. And when you go through all 12 stages, it's like, oh, yeah, this is growth. And it's not even healing. It's just evolution. But when you get stuck at some of these levels, that's the problem, is you get stuck at some of the other perspectives. And then all of you are trying to heal from different starting points. Some people are trying to start healing from second perspective. Some people are at the 4th perspective trying to heal. Some people are at the 6th perspective trying to heal. Some people are at the 8th perspective trying to heal. Everyone is at a different perspective trying to heal. So you're starting at different points. You are all reaching the same conclusion, just at different time periods, which is the 12 ethical stages of perspective growth. Everyone heals the same. It is a one-size-fits-all. If you are a mammal, cats go through this. Cats are second perspectives. Dogs go through this. Elephants are 5 perspective. They go through this. All mammals go through this process. Every one of them. I wonder if elephants are 9th perspective. I really wonder if they're 9th perspective. So when you look at mammals in general on this scale, like right now, my research is asking the question, are insects on this scale? Are rodents on this scale? Are birds on this scale? I'm pretty sure eagles are. I'm really sure eagles are. I'm really certain birds are on this scale. I am a birder. I love birds. I've watched birds play. Oh my God, it was so much fun. Oh wow, was it fun? I've watched second perspective birds. They were playing in my sprinkler on a hot day like a bunch of children. Yep. They were all standing on a rock in the sprinkler, playing in the sprinkler. One of them was zooming up, getting in the water, zooming back, brushing it all off, going back in. They were playing in the sprinkler like kids, but they were birds. So I'm pretty sure birds are on the scale as well. Oh, that's where you are? You're in the box? Of course she's in the box. So I speak cat. So, it's trying to figure out, yeah. Yeah, having this bit of information. I need 3 days of just processing this new data and digesting. But this is, if I can break this code, if I can figure this out and show people, look, if you can shift from in and out of a perspective, here's what I want you to do. This is what I did. The mark of Bly is right here, and you are stuck in that point. It's a prison. Your first person point of view is a prison. And when you are stuck in the mark of Bly, you are inside the middle of it. You need to step outside of it so you can look at it. And then you can grow bigger, and then you can shrink it. This is what I did every time. And then I threw it away. Oh, well, okay, there we go. It's done. And I did it over and over and over again. I did not do that with my integrated alters. That was different. That was a whole different, that's level 3 traumas. Level 3 traumas are different than level 4 traumas. Level 2 traumas are different. Level 2 traumas, you want to shrink them, step out and aside and shrink. Level 1 traumas, you want to soothe. Level 2 traumas, you want to step out of, dominate, shrink, and throw away. Level 3 traumas, you got to integrate. Level 4 traumas, we got to figure out how to get those guys a navigational compass. That's what level 4 traumas need. They need a navigational compass. That's right. They need a navigational compass. No, nothing got through to me. When I was catatonic, nothing was getting through to me. There was no outside to reach me. There were levels of it, like I could feel it going away and away, where he was getting further and further away, and then I was so far in and I was ready to make the jump, and I was not going to come back. I went, why the fuck should I come back? I was premature dimension walking, and I was not going to come back. I don't know how long I was gone. There was another time I was also catatonic. I've been catatonic a couple times. Yeah. All right. I'm going to break down this work and try and figure out the theory. Thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.